Hi everybody, Gus Gordon here with another edition of This Weekend at the Hoogland Center for the Arts. We have a lot going on this weekend. The Springfield Theater Center production of White Christmas continues with its second of 3 weekends, and we have a wonderful co-production with Richland Community College, the Santaland Diaries. Now those of you who are NPR listeners, you know David Sedaris, and you've probably heard him talk about his experiences as an elf at Macy's. Well, now you get to see it live on the stage at the Hoogland Center for the Arts. Joining me right now is the star of the Santaland Diaries, Jerry Johnson. Jerry, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell us about the show?
Again, written by David Sedaris, a humorist that a lot of people know from NPR radio.
Right.
It's actually based on a true story about a time when he was in New York City and unemployed.
Okay.
Desperate looking for a job. He applied for a job at Macy's Santaland as an elf. He got the job and he hated it. Oh. So it's not a Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer kind of story for kids,
right.
But it is a fun story, even though it sort of has these little dark tones. It's a fun story about the craziness of Christmas that all we adults eventually learn a lot about.
Now this is a one-man show.
Right.
That means you have to carry the whole evening. How does that work out for you?
It's not too tough. I've done this, I think this is my 3rd or 4th year that I've done the show. It all comes back a little quicker every year. But it is more or less me telling the story, me talking for an hour. It's sort of a combination of a story and stand-up, I guess,
sure,
in a way. So I play a few characters, but mostly it's Crumpet the elf talking about his experience.
And it's kind of humiliating for him at times.
Right, right. He is a grown man.
Right.
In his story, the essay when it was written, he was like 33 years old, and again applying for a job as an elf, and getting that job. And most of the other elves are teenagers or are college students.
Right.
But he talks about many of the customers that he encounters, the children, the adults, the parents, celebrities, the other elves that he meets, the training process they went through, and the Santas that he works with.
So this is kind of the anti-traditional Christmas story.
It sort of is, yeah, but it still has, it still embraces Christmas in a way, just sort of in a different sort of way.
And there's some warmth to it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It kind of comes around and tells his whole experience.
Right, it does come around and has a nice warm bit at the end, one of his favorite Santas that he gets to work with. And then of course it has a nice little going out punch at the end.
Of course it does. Well, we would expect to see that. Jerry, thanks very much and good luck this weekend.
Thank
Break
you.
the leg this weekend.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Joining us now is Michelle Stevens, the director of the show. Michelle, what are the challenges of directing, staging a one-person show?
Well, for us originally, the big issue was just to be able to keep it interesting. Nobody wants to go see a one-man show where one person is standing in one place and just sort of talking for an hour.
Right.
So it was, our original space was small, about the same size as this one. Okay. So it was about using that space in a really flexible way to keep it visually interesting and also to help the movement tell the story.
Okay, and what draws you to this material? Because it's kind of unique Christmas material.
Actually, I had never heard of Santaland Diaries until Jerry contacted me the first time, but we read it, loved it, and worked through it. And you know, it's one of those shows that never gets old. And this is our 3rd time doing the show, and you know, so many rehearsals and performances each time through, and I still find myself looking forward to watching it.
And the audience response must be gratifying because there are a lot of funny bits in this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as a director, there's always something special about watching an audience be entertained. Right. And so that's something this is a sort of a instant home run every time just because it's so funny.
Now, watching the audience reaction, have you been able to tweak this year after year to say, oh, this bit really worked or this bit didn't work as well, so let's kind of adjust this a little bit? Do you take that information and go with it?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, sometimes it's just about the way the line is said or the timing or hey, if we, there's a laugh that's getting missed there, so let's take an extra pause so the audience catches that one. Or, sometimes Sedaris is a little somber and then he follows it up with humor, and if you let the audience get a little too much in that somber moment, the laugh that comes right after that doesn't work quite as well.
Right. Now, this is a co-production with Richland Community College, and you are a professor there.
Yeah.
And so you've directed the show for Richland before.
Right. The first time we worked on it, it was just Jerry and I working together independently. And then once we had done it, it was like, this is a really easy show to move into Richland. And now we use this show as a yearly production to raise money for our Emerging Theater Professional Scholarship.
Oh, excellent. That's great. Now, in your advertising, you also say for mature elves only.
Yes.
So tell us about that. So just if people are sensitive to certain material, they might get a little heads up there.
Well, you know, Sedaris has a colorful life. And he also has some colorful language.
Okay.
And so he sort of makes reference to things like failing his drug test. He can be quite creative with the words he uses to express certain things. So I would say it's a little more adult. I would probably keep it in sort of the PG-13 and above range.
Okay, very good. Hey, let's take a look at a clip from the Santaland Diaries.
In order to become an elf, I had to complete 10 pages of forms, a multiple choice personality test, go through 2 interviews, and submit urine for a drug test. Well, the first interview was general, designed to weed out the obvious sociopaths. In the second interview, they asked us why we wanted to become elves, which is really a pretty tough question when you stop to think about it. I listened as the woman ahead of me, a former waitress, answered the question. I want to become an elf because I think it's about acting. Before this, I worked for a really wonderful woman who always dreamed of opening a restaurant. That's when I realized it was really, really, really important to have a dream. Well, everything this woman said, every phrase, every sentence was punctuated with a question mark, and the interviewer never raised an eyebrow. When it was my turn, I said I wanted to become an elf because I thought it was quite possibly the most frightening job opportunity I'd ever come across. The interviewer raised her head from my application and said, "And?"
The Santaland Diaries will be playing at the Hoogland Center for the Arts this weekend, Friday night at 8 o'clock, Saturday at 8, and Sunday at 2 p.m. You can get your tickets at the box office at 420 South 6th Street. Call us on the phone, 523-2787, or go online at hcfta.org. We'll see you this weekend at the Hoogland Center for the Arts.